And it looked like ESPN just told the shocking truth as to why Sandy Brondello was let go by the New York Liberty. Guys, for this one here.
New York raised a banner, polished the trophy, and then did something nobody expected. They let the coach who delivered it walk. Sandy Brondello, the winningest coach in franchise history, just watched the team she built decide her chapter was over. Not with a scandal, not with a total collapse, but with a blunt line in a press release. Contract not renewed. For days after a first-round exit, the celebration glow flickered and the temperature dropped to ice. The message landed harder than a buzzer beater. In this league's new pressure economy, even a fresh ring might not buy you time. ESPN called it. Reuters confirmed it. And the GM used one word that turns a resume into a roadmap: proactive. Translation? They think the next version of the Liberty needs a different voice. Now, not later. Roll back the timeline. In 2022, the Liberty were still assembling the pieces. By 2023 and 2024, the machine clicked. 32-8, 32-8. A march through the league with the kind of week-to-week inevitability you feel in your stomach. The payoff was historic. New York's first WNBA championship in 2024. Brondello didn't just coach stars, she synchronized them. The playbook flexed to fit Breanna Stewart's gravity, Sabrina Ionescu's spacing, Jonquil Jones' interior dominance, the role players' switchability. New York felt inevitable, until the small cracks of 2025 widened at the worst possible time. The Liberty still finished 27-17, but the early exit stung deeper precisely because the standard had shifted from contender to we win in June. You can be great and still miss your window by a week. That's what makes the decision feel both ruthless and, depending on your appetite for risk, rational.
The New York Liberty have let go Sandy Brondello. Well, in their terms, they will not renew her contract. In our eyes, they parted ways. She was fired, essentially. But not as bad as being fired, I guess. But that's just how we talk out here. Nonetheless, I'm shocked. She's been a coach there for 4 seasons. You look at the past 3 seasons, she made it to the finals in her 2nd season. She won the finals in her 3rd season, and they lost in round 1 this year. Outside looking in, you look at this franchise and you see that's a successful franchise. New York is a powerhouse in the W right now. So what is the issue? What is the...
General Manager Jonathan Kolb didn't hide behind cliches. He called it a fork-in-the-road moment. That's GM speak for, we can double down on the old plan or jump to the next one before the market catches up. He framed it as long-term sustainability, a belief that the modern W, with its new money, new eyeballs, and 2 expansion clubs on the way, rewards teams that anticipate the next meta, not the last trophy. It wasn't a panic trade, it was a calendar decision. The staff looked at the league's velocity and bet on a new voice before the next recruitment cycle and system tweak. Fans see a banner and think legacy. Front offices see a banner and think, can this scale for the next 3 summers? Kolb clearly decided the answer required a change at the top. How does a coach with a title and the franchise's best record end up on the wrong side of the door? Start with fit. Fit isn't about competence, it's about trajectory. If the 2025 offense leaned a hair too predictable in late games, or the rotations felt conservative against switch-heavy looks, those edges get magnified under playoff lighting. Add injuries, rhythm swings, and the reality that teams spent a year programming for New York's pet actions. In a copycat league, yesterday's cheat code becomes today's scouting report. A front office can respect the architect and still decide the next renovation needs a different blueprint. That's not a verdict on the past. It's a bet on the next 18 months. And when you consider how quickly offensive trends cycle, more 5-out, more ghost screen manipulation, quicker second side triggers, the Liberty may simply want a coach who lives in that chaos natively. Proactive becomes the polite word for preemptive.
Be shocking though if they decide to go after maybe someone in the NBA, someone that we might be a little bit more of a non-traditional hire. I do think Sandy Brondello has a great shot of getting hired again.
The title, what exactly led to the parting of ways between the Liberty and Sandy Brondello here?
For example, in addition Malika, I know you guys talk about this a lot in the NBA and in other sports, but it was really championship or bust for New York and for Sandy Brondello. And in fact, if they hadn't won the championship last year, we might have been having this conversation a year ago, which is maybe a little startling to fans outside, given how, excuse me for those noises, for how impactful she'd been for that franchise. But that is how bullish this organization is in New York, and how their ownership and management really are looking to continue upon that success.
ESPN's coverage didn't just report the move. It framed the stakes. A champion coach out after 4 seasons, a first-round exit as the immediate context, and an organization that aims to be relentlessly forward-leaning. On NBA Today, the discussion echoed a phrase fans love to hate: championship or bust. Whether you embrace the standard or recoil from it, the idea sticks because it feels like the only way the timeline adds up. Social feeds did the rest. Shock, then hot takes, then speculation about personalities and politics. That's the attention tax for a super team in a league that's finally expanding its stage. The Liberty didn't just make a basketball decision. They pressed a cultural button, one that says no dynasty is safe from the upgrade cycle. Look past the headlines, and you see the real metronome: contracts. ESPN's off-season guide lists Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and Jonquil Jones among 2026 free agents. That's not an emergency siren. It's a timing cue. If you believe your next coach is also your best recruiter, you move now, not after the market opens. Continuity is powerful. So is signaling. A front office that acts early tells stars and agents the pitch is coherent, the vision is active, and the scheme you'll play in 2026 starts getting built in camp, not in a desperate January scramble. If the Liberty viewed 2025's step back as a tell, not a verdict, they were incentivized to swap leaders while everyone's still on the boat. It's icy. It's also how modern contenders operate.
And so I think for New York moving forward, I would expect them to really, again, be bullish in who they go after. We know that they are a WNBA franchise that invests a lot in a lot of resources, a lot of financial, capital into these decisions. So I think it wouldn't.
ESPN's analysis floated what fans were already whispering. New York could target a non-traditional hire, possibly with NBA experience. That doesn't mean an outsider for the sake of headlines. It means a coach steeped in tempo-driven spacing, quick decision trees, and lineup versatility. The pitch to the locker room writes itself. We're not resetting the core. We're revving the engine. But there's risk. Veteran rooms need instant credibility and vocabulary. You don't hand a formula, one car to someone who's only ever parked sedans. The sweet spot is a builder who can map analytics-friendly offense onto the W-specific pace, travel cadence, and physicality, and who can win trust in week 1, not month 6. New York is selling world-class resources and a flagship market. The next coach must sell a better shot chart in May and a cooler pulse in September. Here's the twist. Seattle just opened, too. The Storm announced that Noelle Quinn won't return, and expansion is accelerating options across the map. For a resume like Brondello's, that's leverage. She's a proven stabilizer with a reputation for getting stars to buy in without turning the room into a dictatorship. Exactly what a proud franchise or a brand new operation wants when it needs credibility yesterday. If she lands in a city with a clean cap sheet and a patient owner, New York might watch a former coach shape the conference they're trying to dominate. That's the irony of proactive. You move first, but you might also mint your rival's compass.
With ESPN to give us an update as to why Sandy Brondello will let go. And what's crazy about all of this in this interview that I'm about to show you guys is that Sandy Brondello was supposed to be fired last year, but she actually won the WNBA championship.
New York Liberty just fired their head coach. People are confused as to why, because they won the championship last year. They made the playoffs this year. In sports, there's always a scapegoat when things aren't going the way that they wanted it to go. Clearly, in New York, the standard has been raised. As Coach Tibbs learned with the New York Knicks, making the playoffs does not guarantee that you are safe anymore. They have raised the standard. They're sending a message to the fans, to the team, saying, we don't want to just go to the playoffs. We need to go to the finals and we need to win. So if it's not the players on the court that are changing, it's got to be the coaching staff. So unfortunately, that did mean Coach.
If a fresh banner can't guarantee security, the league's center of gravity has shifted. Windows are shorter. Bets are bigger. The WNBA's growth, new money, new fan bases, new narratives, means patience and ambition now collide every offseason. New York chose ambition. If they nail the hire, we'll call this foresight. If they wobble, we'll call it hubris. Either way, The decision is a mirror for the entire league. Celebrate your progress, but never assume yesterday's formula will scale into tomorrow's noise. That's the uncomfortable truth underneath the headline. Proactive can look like perfect timing, or it can look like pulling the chute at 10,000 feet and hoping the next canopy opens faster.
Yeah, you never want to see a player get injured, and a player like Caitlin and coming back has had a few injuries this year. She's a great player. It would have been good for our craft to see her, but hopefully they get to see her after post All-Star. We get to play them again. As for the All-Star, I'm excited to get to know her a little bit. I think that's the part of the All-Star. I just don't want to coach players that you haven't coached before and get them to know them a little bit and enjoy the whole celebration.
Watch the short list. If the Liberty chase a systems thinker with a modern offensive spine, believe the word innovation wasn't PR. If they chase a culture anchor with deep W roots, they're betting chemistry over novelty. Also watch the player's body language at Media Day and the next wave of vet minimum signings. Those moves whisper how the room feels. And watch Seattle. If Brondello's next chapter kicks into gear quickly, New York's calculus gets tested from day one. That's the game now. Speed, vision, and a little bit of cold-blooded timing. The ring was real. The window? That's what this hire will define.